Hey folks, this episode of WTF is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com, use offer code CATS, C-A-T-S, CATS. And also, I'm not sure if you've had the chance to catch Comedy Central's new show, Broad City, but you should do yourself a favor and watch it. The easiest way is probably on demand or on Comedy Central's website. The show has had great reviews on the Onion AV Club, Grantland, and a bunch of other sites. It stars two great female comics, Abby Jacobson and Alana Glazer. It has had appearances by Hannibal Buress, Fred Armisen, and is produced by Amy Poehler. It is a great show, and as always, good to see Comedy Central taking a chance on some young talent. All right, let's do an episode of WTF. You wanna? Okay, here we go.
Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers, what the fuck buddies, what the fuckeristas, what the fuck nicks, what the fucksters? I am Marc Maron. This is WTF. We are doing it. Today's a big day because I got Ron White on the show. Ron White from the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. Some of you may know him. He is he's the dark, honest one on in that batch. A great comic and a guy I've been trying to get on the show for a long time. He's, I think, a lot of my ilk, or the alt ilk, or the ilk of people that don't necessarily pay much attention to comedy may pigeonhole that crew as something that they just across the board don't like. But I'm here to tell you that Ron White's a great fucking comic, and I'm thrilled to have him on the show. It was a good talk. He's a hard liver, and he's been through some stuff, but he is one of the great long-form comedians that is working out there and has been for years. I was thrilled to have him on the show. We'll get to that in a second. I'm going to be doing a series of dates at the Tripany House here in L.A. at the Steve Allen Theater. I will be doing February 18th. These are Tuesdays, March 11th, and March 4th. So Feb 18, March 4, and March 11th at the Tripany House. These are small shows. These are just for me to ramble and flounder and wrestle with myself. They're $8. All the proceeds will go to benefit the theater. I need a supportive ear, folks. So if you want to see me do that, I mean, certainly some of you witness it here every twice a week, but to see it in person, and I'm not going to make any guarantees. These are workshop shows, and I'm looking for trains of thought. I want to try and jump on some trains of thought and figure out what it is I need to be talking about. And if you want to be part of that process, I might even need you. I might need to talk to you. So that's the Tripany House. You can go to tripany.org. February 18th, March 4th, and March 11th, I will be doing these Maron Flounders evenings. So Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Now, I want to tell you the story. I want to tell you the long-form story of the relationship I am in now. I told you that I was seeing Moon, but I don't know if you really know just, the evolution of that thing. I think is romantic. I don't know. I'm a 50-year-old man. I've had a lot of life experiences. I've been in a lot of weird places. I've had my heart broken a couple of times. I've broken some hearts, but I seem to still get up and keep trying. To find love and to be in love and to deal with it and to accept it and to try to nurture it or make it work. And it's not easy for me. It doesn't, I'm not a natural for whatever reason. It hasn't worked out for me, in the long term, but I no longer look at my past marriages or my past relationships as, I don't regret them. I have to see them as some sort of growth, and they're all very painful. But I mean, what are the choices? I mean, do you just, get your heart broke and then close it up, nail it down, close the door, and just sort of slowly smolder through life with a certain amount of bitterness and fear about, just being in relationship at all? Do you just, spend your life having angry sex with strangers and hookers and yourself for the rest of your life? Is love worth it? Well, I'll tell you what, tomorrow it is. because tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and that's why I want to give you one final shot to make things right with Pro Flowers. For today and tomorrow, we've got the 1 dozen red roses special. 1 dozen red roses, a free glass vase, a teddy bear, and gourmet chocolates for only $39.99. Okay, look, I have failed in a lot of relationships. Some of them could have been saved, at least for a little while, with a vase of flowers. All right, and this is not just that, it's a teddy bear and some chocolates, too. So even if you miss Valentine's Day, these are a great makeup gift, all right? So there's a couple options here. Pro Flowers is quick and easy. You can't beat the price or convenience. You're out of time, and this deal is too good to pass up, folks. Here's the only way to get this exclusive podcast Valentine's deal. 1 dozen red roses, including a free vase, chocolates, and a teddy bear for only $39.99. Go to proflowers.com, click on the blue microphone in the top right corner, and type in WTF. That's proflowers.com. Click on the microphone and type in WTF. Order now. This deal expires Thursday or when supplies run out, whichever comes first. Okay? So do that. It might buy you some time, but I don't know. I don't know where you're at with your thing. All of you know that I went through a difficult breakup this year or last year. It was heartbreaking for me, even though I was the one that decided to do it. And about 3 months after that or so, I went out to dinner with my old friend Moon Zappa, who many of you have heard on the show. Now, this is sort of I don't know, it's a romantic story, I guess. Now, the backstory of this romance, this grown-up romance that I'm finding myself in and deciding to talk to you about, is that, I met Moon Zappa probably in 1994, 95, maybe a little before that, but I didn't really know it. I may not have registered it. But she was living in New York doing work for VH1, doing some other stuff, and she was coming out to comedy shows. And when I first met her, I was like, oh my fucking God. There was just this attraction. There was this chemistry. There was something undeniable, but I was out of my mind. I was a sweaty, drugged up wild man. Just sort of like, who is this Moon? Yeah, I want this. And, I was just paralyzed and completely into her. And, I was with somebody else. But at that time, given the nature of who I was and what was going on, that didn't necessarily stop me. I've been a bad man in my past. So I tried to make it work. I would go on the road. I remember I remember she faxed me pictures she drew once. So we were talking and we were engaged in a dialogue, and I was, beside myself. I was basically in love with her. 94, 95, this has got to be. But there was nothing I could do about it. I wasn't quite married to my first wife yet, but I was close, and, I was out of my mind. I was falling, horizontally falling through life. And I wanted to grab onto Moon Zappa because I felt it. There's a few people in your life, and you know who they are. If you're lucky, you're with them. But there's a few people in your life, and it doesn't necessarily happen once. I do not believe that there is only one person out there for everybody, and I know I'm not the only one that doesn't believe that. That's ridiculous. There's always people out there for you. It's just sometimes hard to find them, and sometimes it depends on where you are in your life. But I have been in love a few times, deeply, and she was one of them at that time, but there was nothing we could do about it. She couldn't handle me. I was with somebody else, and I was not ready to leave for somebody that couldn't handle me. I think we made out once, didn't go very far, and that was it. And then I went off and did my life, and went through that marriage, and I don't remember seeing her much during that time. The next time I ran into her, she was married to Paul, her ex-husband, and I saw them both, and I was like, I just had that pang, and when you see a couple or you see somebody that you had a thing for, and they seem to have found the right person, or that it all makes sense in that moment, and you're like, oh boy, this kind of hurts, but I guess, this is what happens, and it seems like it's going to work out, and they seem groovy, but I just still had that heartache about it, And then I had her on the podcast, and I think I ran into her. The reason she was on the podcast, I ran into her at a show at UCB, and and I was in a relationship again. I saw her at UCB, and it just happened to me again. I'm like, oh my God, I should be with her. Why am I not with her? I can't. I'm seeing somebody, and I love this person, and I'm in it. And she wasn't she was divorced and she wasn't with anybody. Moon wasn't. I was like, okay, this is just life. This is the ache. This is the ache of life. You don't always get what you want. You don't always end up with the people that you were in love with necessarily. You may love them and you may be in love with them, but there's always going to be that one or two people that just fucking knock you the fuck out. And for whatever reason, you can't be with them. For whatever reason, it just doesn't happen. And that was how I felt about Moon. There was an ache there, but it was just sort of like, well, destiny is not on my side. So then, I have her on the podcast, and some of you heard it, and there was, the same old juice, man, that was just, it was a shorthand, there was a click, there was a chemistry, and I was just, I'm just beside myself, and I just had to accept, like, well, there's just, again, one of those things in life. And that happens in life, man. I'm an old guy. Well, I'm 50. This happens. If you get around, you live in a few cities, you're going to have some of those things around. So then me and Jessica hit the wall, and, that was devastating. And then, a few months after that, I'm like, all right, I gotta get back out there. I'm going to call Moon. I'm going to ask her out to dinner. And, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have any expectations. But I do need to do this. I do need to see her. I need to talk to her. I need to, see where she's at and what's going on. I want to talk to her. I want to see her. And so I ask her to dinner, and we go to dinner. And I really don't have any expectations. I want to see what's there. I want to see what it feels like. So she agrees to have dinner with me, and she's in a relationship. And I'm like, oh my God, damn it. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm out. I'm done. I'm beat up. I've learned my lesson. I've always been in love with you. I didn't say that. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to play it cool, man. I'm like, what's up with this relationship? Turns out it wasn't that great. She was having some trouble, and I related my troubles and what I had been through, and she heard me out, and then she started thinking about her relationship. And we got along fucking beautifully, and it was just crazy. It was crazy. But I'm like, okay, well, you're in a thing. I get it. Good luck with it. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. And I walk away from that thing, and I'm like, God damn it. You just got to be cool, man, and see what happens, because that felt like it was on fire. You got to be cool. Don't freak out. Don't push. Let her fucking do what she's going to do. But God damn it. In my mind, I could not let it go. I did not want to let it go. I'm like, I've waited half my life to be with this person, and I want it more than anything, and I don't know what to do. So we ended up talking again and being casual and just being friends, and and she was going through a hard time with this relationship she was in. I was supportive. I was not, pushy. And the miracle happened. The miracle happened is that, she got out of that relationship. Not for me, but because I seemed to had shed some light on some dynamics and whatever. I mean, I'm sure I helped it along, but it was not for me. And she was on the level, man. I mean, we didn't do anything when she was in the relationship. It was all on the level. But then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're out. So where are we? What are we doing? And then we went out a few times as friends, and it was like, what are we doing? Is this a date? Where are we at? Do we want this? I have love for this person. I have always felt connected to her, and I cannot let this fucking slip through my hands. I can't fuck this up. I gotta do whatever's necessary here to give this a go. And so we were both stubborn people, somewhat angry people, but, we'd been through a lot, and we were both willing to do it differently, and we wanted to do it differently. So that's what we're doing. We're fighting the good fight, and we're having a blast. And that is the best Valentine's Day story that I can tell you. I mean, 1994, 95, 2005, that was 20 years ago that this woman struck me right in the goddamn guts and soul and heart. And we've just been missing each other for 20 years. And now we're in it, and we're wiser, we're older, we're humbled, and we want to change, and we want to make it work, and we want to be open and honest and experience happiness and all those things. But, we're used to the other way. So it's been very exciting. I'm sorry this isn't a funny monologue, but that's my Valentine's Day story. Somehow or another, this thing with her came around, and I am amazed and grateful and very much in love with her. And that's the God honest truth. But every day I'm like, I don't want this to go bad. I don't know what I would do if this went bad. I will keep my heart as open as possible. And anytime I begin to do what I used to do that was destructive, I fucking try to put a kibosh on that and be as honest and open as possible and show up for this thing. There's a lot of crying involved. There's a lot of crying to keeping your heart open. Because when it comes right down to it, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? You going to cry or are you going to yell? Cry or yell. Try crying. She's crying and you didn't cause it. So how about everybody cries? And maybe that's just the way feelings feel when your default is anger. Maybe that's what's under it. It's okay. Just cry a little bit. Just cry with each other until you start laughing. Love is a fucked up, funny thing. But I tell you, it can be amazing if you let it in. I'm not necessarily great at that, but happy Valentine's Day. We're also sponsored today by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. And I have a way for you to start a free trial and get 10% off. Squarespace is constantly improving their platform with new features, new designs, and even better support. They have all the options you need to create a unique website for you or your business. Squarespace has an amazing 24/7 support team in New York City. They do live chat during the week and have extremely fast email support throughout the day and night. And Squarespace recently added e-commerce to their platform. This means that literally every Squarespace customer can now begin selling products online. Start a trial with no credit card required and get building your website, folks. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code CATS to get 10% off and to show your support for WTF. That's squarespace.com and use the offer code CATS, C-A-T-S. Squarespace. Everything you need to create an exceptional website. All right, so let's talk to Ron White. Ron White, I've been trying to get you on this fucking show for a long time.
Yeah, I got that 125 city a year thing that's kind of stands in my way of doing fun stuff. And I've wanted to do it for a long time. We've tried to set it up a couple times. You were
the last time I saw you. Let me think now. Years ago, you and I were at Montreal. We were on the same showcase.
Absolutely.
The Remember These Old Guys showcase.
Right.
Maybe something will happen for these guys someday again.
Maybe it will, right.
Yeah. And
the Masters is what they were calling it, but
right,
what they meant was the old guys.
Yeah. But, right, and we both got deals out of that.
I got a deal with Fox that built my hopes up so high for the future that I thought it was going to be rosy from there on out. And,
what was that show though? What do you remember the show that you did?
Yeah, it was called Senor White, and it was about this time in my life where I'd said fuck comedy and I moved down to Mexico and opened a pottery factory.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I did it.
Oh boy, we're gonna have to get the timeline right.
Right, it's all quite a while ago, but I'd been doing right around that time. Blue Collar was coming out, and so I had that big development deal with Fox with more money than I'd ever seen, and then Warner Brothers just committed $12 million to advertising Blue Collar, and I'm like, right. Well, this looks great. Surely I'm gonna have my own sitcom because there's no way they would spend this much money and throw it in the trash, right? That's impossible.
Right.
And then this movie's coming out, and they're gonna spend $12 million saying my name, and then they changed that to $600,000, which is way less, and then they didn't pick up the sitcoms. So a couple weeks later, I'm back at Des Moines at the Funny Bone telling jokes.
Doing the comedy.
And I'm like, well, I had a chance. And it just didn't work out. But turns out in DVD and all that stuff, it all worked out.
Yeah, you've done fucking great. You're one of the best there is, in my mind. And then the time I saw you after that was at the Improv Bar. And you were sitting there, having a few cocktails,
That sounds like me.
And you were you had given me, like, I had just gotten divorced and I was a wreck, and you were in the middle of it, and you seemed perfectly fine. It was an inspiration to me.
I guarantee you I was not perfectly fine during that divorce. I was getting kicked in the ribs on a daily basis, and I was expected to just like it and shut up. And that was just I'm friends with Dr. Phil. I play golf with him every once in a while.
Yeah.
And not only does he not give unsolicited advice, he doesn't give solicited advice. And, so we're playing golf, and I'm like, Doc, this divorce is killing me. He's like, keep your head still when you putt. I'm like,
that was it.
Yeah, right, thanks.
no help at all.
What I'm saying is, I feel like I'm dying on the inside, Doc. I don't think keeping my head still is going to fix that.
Yeah, watch your knees. Watch your knees.
Careful.
Bend a little bit. I don't know anything about golf. But the first time I think I started seeing you, or when I met you, I think in Montreal was the first time I really met you, but I'd seen you on TV. But then, like, I remember seeing pictures of you at the old in Houston at what was that comedy club there?
Laugh Stop.
At Laugh Stop.
Yeah, right.
But these were pictures that go way back. A younger Ron White, no gray hair, longer hair in my recollection.
Way longer hair. Right.
Tater salad was in the name at one time.
Absolutely.
So it's
all I could do to get it out of the name. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, well, it was gone. But that was at some point. That was part of the title.
Yeah, I thought it would be my closer for the rest of my life.
So it was based on a bit.
Based on a
story.
A true story. It's my legal alias is Ron Tater Salad White, if you look up my police record. Or actually, it used to be. It's not anymore because this Texas Supreme Court justice expunged my record. I was talking to him on, I got to have a Ron White Day in the state of Texas. And
that's a real day?
Yeah. It had a year attached to it, so it doesn't happen every year. They don't bring it up. So. But they did that one time, and I met this Texas Supreme Court justice, and he said, yeah, I was looking at your police record the other day, and I thought, this is bullshit. And apparently there's just a button they can click, and it's gone. I'm like, hey, my road manager's name's Steve Cook. Is there any way you could take a look at his? Because I'm having a hard time getting him into Canada.
Yeah, because you hit that magic button for Canada, too. Yeah, I'm flagged in Canada for bullshit. And it's very difficult to get your name off of that shit.
Yeah, it is.
For bullshit, for nothing.
Right. Well, I got that. I got a plane, and I got busted with weed on it in Florida. So
how'd that happen?
Oh, these guys that were pilots, I fired, and they were just the biggest dickheads in the world.
The guys who flew you around.
The guys that flew me around. So I fired them for just being incompetent. Fucks and
right.
And so they start calling the police in towns that I was going to and telling them it was a drug smuggling plane. And so I land in Vero Beach, and I look out the window, and there's fucking cops and dogs and guns, and I'm like, I wonder what's going on. Then they like stormed my plane.
You're going on.
And it was the weirdest thing because they told them it was a drug smuggling plane. So, okay, if you got some way to detect that kind of stuff and narc on these guys that are moving meth or whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
So they come out and they do it. They find less than a gram of weed that I have a prescription for in my pocket.
Yeah.
And they took me to jail. It's like they were looking for a rabid pit bull, but they couldn't find one, so they just shot a poodle.
Yeah, they made the trip. There was a lot of cars involved.
Going down. They drove by 3 meth labs and a dead hooker just to get to the airport. And
they had a big tip, man. They weren't going to be held. They were going to be hung out to dry.
So I actually felt sorry for the guys because the cops were fans and they were like, "Oh, this is bullshit." And then some some lieutenant or something said, "Bring him in."
Yeah, the one guy that didn't know your work.
Right. The one guy I knew needed to know it. So I was actually 2 hours late to the show, and not one person left. They were telling him, they were going, "Hey, he's in jail, but it looks like he's getting out." And
did you open with it?
Oh, sure did. Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, for 5 years.
Yeah, that was a good story.
And I should have realized that when it was happening.
Right.
That it was a good thing.
Yeah.
That my fans would find it completely ridiculous that they did this.
Yeah.
Most of the U.S. would think there's probably a better way to spend their time.
Yeah.
But now
on a random tip. You know,
Random tip.
You know, without any fucking research whatsoever.
Right. And Alex Raimundo was opening for me, and I was on the plane by myself, and I don't know how he got there. I don't remember. But the next week we were going into somewhere in Mississippi, and so now we've got a more conservative approach. So we're not taking any more herb than we can swallow, and we're smoking out of an apple.
Yeah.
We get there, same thing. And
the cops are there?
Cops, dogs, everything, searching the plane. Alex got a big old jaw full of weed. He's eating an apple, and as fast as he can, all talks a lot, and it worked. They didn't do anything to us.
Well, how'd you stop these assholes from doing that to you everywhere?
There was nothing I could do to stop them. This guy was crazy, and I mean crazy.
Yeah.
But you would never know it to talk to him. He seems real smart. He was a good pilot, but he just went whack on me, and I couldn't stop it. He was a crazy person that'll continue to fuck with you as long as he possibly can. The sheriff in Gwinnett County, where I live in Atlanta, his son was in jail, in that guy's jail, in the sheriff's jail, and he opened up a website called rednecksheriff.com or whatever it was, and just to fuck with this guy. And he flew for Reba McEntire for a while, and when they fired him, he would send them, boxes of shit. And
so he's fucking nuts.
Yeah, fucking nuts. And
you can't do a restraining order or any of that kind of
right?
bullshit?
No. Now he's kind of quit.
Yeah.
But before, when he'd quit, I would send him a text that says, "Oh, you got motherfucker." Let's, because I can't just let it go. I can't just. Well, why don't I just let it die down?
That's not one of your things.
No, I like to kick it once before I walk away and make sure.
Yeah. See if it's still got any fight in him.
Right.
So you started in Texas. You grew up in Texas.
Yeah, I was born in a little dirt town in northwest Texas called Fritch.
What's that near? Anything?
No, it's north of Amarillo, about 60 miles up in the Panhandle.
Why was your family up there?
My father worked for Phillips Petroleum, and Phillips, Texas is up there, which is where their original refinery was.
Was he working on a drilling rig or in the factory?
Oh, no, in the refinery.
Yeah.
They went there as ditch diggers. Living
your folks
in tents.
did?
My dad did, and his family.
Like the Dust Bowl business?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like digging ditches for what?
Yeah, well, oddly enough, my grandmother moved to the Panhandle of northwest Texas at the turn of the last century in a covered wagon. My grandmother. Not my great-great-grandmother. My grandmother was in a covered fucking wagon.
And that was the early 1900s.
Right, early 1900s.
Right. Didn't need a covered wagon. But that was the situation.
That was the situation.
Do you know where they came from?
Oh, our genealogy is not really well traced on either side of my family. They're Cherokee Indian, but on my mother's side.
Oh, really?
And she was from Welch, Oklahoma, and but all really small town folks.
Dusty counties either way.
Oh, forsaken by God Himself. God took time out of His busy schedule to forsake this little town, and He forsook the shit out of it too. And then He smotered it. He smotered it, and then He forsook it, and then He sent in some locusts. He fucked the place up.
And that's where your great grandmother said, "I'm leaving."
Yeah, right. About 80 years later.
But Fritch is the same. It's a shithole or no?
Total shithole. Dirt streets to this day.
Really?
Yeah, dirt streets.
Like, was there a town?
There was a town. At one time, there was a little one street thing, 700 people.
Yeah.
We had a grocery store, which was a big Quonset hut called Page's Grocery Store.
Yeah.
And my mother was the cashier. My mother was smoking hot.
Yeah.
And so as a little kid, I would sit on the floor by the cash register, and my mother, who was probably 21 or 22, worked the cash register. And I used to love those little pickled sausages, the hot pickled sausages.
Yeah,
when I was a
in the can?
Kid. Well, in a jar.
Okay.
The ones in a jar.
Yeah.
And I always wanted that, but we didn't have any money. And my mother, I would ask her if I could just go look at them. and I would go over to the shelf and find them, and I'd just stand there and stare at them. It was a low-end lifestyle.
Things were simple.
Yeah, things were simple back then.
700 people. So ultimately, you spent your entire childhood there?
No, what happened was they built a lake there. It's called Lake Meredith, which dried up. And
was that the idea to get some business in, to get some boats? And
so when they did, Piggly Wiggly, the grocery store chain, moved in there with their automatic doors and their fancy highfalutin stuff.
Sure.
And it ran Page's Grocery Store out of business. And then the lake dried up, and Piggly Wiggly split, and we had no food. So there was I think it's time to move on here.
That's an indicator.
Yeah, I was the voice of reason at 5. Let's blow this dump.
I can't look at any more sausages.
Right, I'm getting bored here.
So how old were you when you left?
We moved to Deer Park, Texas, when I was about 6 or 7.
And that's
I
bigger?
guess. Well, it's a suburb of Houston.
Oh, okay.
So way bigger.
So and your dad was still with Phillips?
Yeah, he transferred there, and then I went to work for him too. So, and then I quit when I was 21 or 2, and I just was pushing a button, and I didn't see it, and my father told me that's the stupidest thing you'll ever do. And 2 years later, the plant blew to smithereens and killed 17 people on my shift.
What?
Yeah, leveled it. Adams Terminal, Bud Adams.
Yeah.
That was where his money came from.
This was
Adams
a refinery?
Terminal. Right, refinery.
And it blew up?
Blew to smithereens.
On the same shift that you used to work?
The same shift.
Because of a button problem?
Because it was a disaster waiting to happen anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
you could walk through that thing and you'd smell gas fumes and all kinds of stuff.
They didn't give a fuck.
They didn't care at all. And so eventually the inevitable happened, and
Your dad wasn't there.
Blew up. My father was transferred to another refinery by then.
Oh, that was lucky.
Yeah, right.
So,
Right.
so you did you go? So you stayed in Texas through high school, and then you just went to work
I joined. I got kicked out of high school, and
for what?
I got more than anything else an inability to pay attention for very long.
Yeah.
And then I had some little behavioral problems. On top of that,
Like what? Which ones?
I was smoking pot at 12, which was pretty progressive back then.
Yeah. What year was that, man?
Well, I was born in '56, so 12.
Oh, so it was about the right time where everybody was like, "What is this?"
Right. Well, I don't think so back
Not
then.
yet?
The way I got there was my sister was kind of a whore.
Yeah.
And that attracted an older group of guys. So I had access to people, 3 or 4 years older
But
than me.
reefer's reefer's not like that. Reefer's been around forever with everybody. I mean, I guess the hippies sort of made it famous, but I mean, with musicians and beatniks and jazz people. I mean,
Right, it wasn't a new
weed was
thing.
everywhere. Yeah.
Right. In Deer Park, it was pretty big news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That the kid was smoking reefer.
Right. And they had Allen Landing in Houston, which was a big hippie scene.
Yeah.
And, we used to go down there as a family just to look at them.
Right.
With their flower power and their
Sure.
long hair.
They were
and
something to
tripping
look
on
at.
acid.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah.
I remember seeing him for the first time. All I thought was like, I want to be part of that. Wait,
Yeah, me too. I'm like, I think they're on to something.
yeah, this seems like the future to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're like 7 or 8 years older than me. Were you in the forces?
Oh, yeah, I joined the Navy right after that. And
After you got kicked out of high school?
Right.
You go to the Navy.
Go to the Navy.
What year was that?
74 or 5, I guess.
So we were out of the game by then. There's a paused period in terms of wars, right?
It was tail end of the Vietnam War, so probably 74. Our little boat was called the USS Conserver, which a few years ago they had to spend $100,000 to sink it. And that's how useless this boat was. It was commissioned in 36 and had.
You got bad luck with equipment.
I know.
Refineries, boats.
Yeah, right. All of them. Cell phones, all of them.
What was your job on the boat? Like
I was a quartermaster, which is in the Navy is a navigator.
And
I tested real high. I had really off the chart math skills, and but outside of that, there was really no other shining light. But if you test, you take that test, and then it shows you a big list of where your score is, what you can do, and mine was fine. So I got that. I got a pretty good job.
Where'd you go? On the boat.
I was stationed at Pearl Harbor on Oahu. And then we went on Westpac to the Philippines and all kinds of stops over there, Hong Kong and Korea. It took us 31 days to get from Hawaii to Korea. That's what a piece of shit this boat was. 31 days and of slow fucking.
Did you enjoy it at all, though?
You know what? I didn't mind it. But by then I was eating acid
on the boat.
On the boat.
Really?
And, yeah. And just smoking. It's just unbelievable weed. Not unbelievable today, but back then those Maui tops were really off the charts.
So were the other dudes with you? You're just all hanging out on the boat, tripping balls?
We're tripping balls, smoking weed, and then eventually we got into a little bit of heroin over in Hong Kong, and then they did a random drug check on the ship, and I came up positive. And back then there just wasn't any other drug, but in Hong Kong you could find heroin, and you could take a tip of a match and split it 8 ways, and
because it was so powerful.
So yeah,
how'd you do it?
Just snorted it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I came up positive for that. So they flew me on a medevac flight in a big cargo plane with no windows from Iwakuni, Japan to Guam, and then to the Naval Air Station in San Diego, where they had the Naval Drug Rehabilitation Center.
So they put you in rehab.
They put me in rehab, where all the drugs were. That's where the good drugs. That's where we found the really good drugs, and so that didn't work out very well. So they gave me an honorable discharge with under medical conditions, and so with full benefits, and
really,
and kicked me out after 18 months and 3 days of service. And you have to do at least 18 months to get your.
So you got 18 months and 3 days, and you get VA benefits now.
Well, I don't know what they are, but but if I wanted them, yeah, I guess so. I could go to a VA hospital or something like that. My first house was bought on a VA loan. And,
really?
Uh-huh.
That's a good story, because they didn't fucking
they didn't read the fine print,
but they didn't rail you either.
No, they didn't. They really didn't.
And that's I guess that after Vietnam, the bar had been set fairly high for what a real fuck up was in the sense of drugs and whatever. I mean, right. I can't even imagine what they dealt with during that war in terms of people coming back, in terms of drugs, in terms of everything else.
Well, a lot of those drug avenues were left open
right.
after the war. A lot of there were people that still were running drugs out of South Vietnam,
military,
military operations.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, they didn't have a genuine flag or anything, but it was the same guys that were there going, hey, well, why don't we just keep on doing this?
Oh, I see what you mean. Once they got out of the forces, they were like, we opened these channels. Why close down the shop?
Right. No, nobody said anything.
Yeah, we can still get on a plane.
Right.
Oh, that's unbelievable. So then after that, you went to the refinery, and then what was the life plan, Ron? What was the life plan early on? Did you get married?
Oh, my overall plan was maybe something neat will happen. That was my that was my retirement plan.
Yeah, I'll wait it out.
Yeah, see if something neat doesn't happen, and so it turned out by chance that it did. That it ended up being it's still going. I'm still doing 125 cities a year, so it's still working.
But you started in Houston?
I started in Dallas or Arlington, Texas.
What year was that? At the Funny Bone?
86.
Well, what the hell were you doing previous to that? Just hanging around?
Well, then I had a real drug problem from in my late teens to early 20s. I was probated to a drug abuse program.
What was that drug?
What was that drug? That was a mixture of almost anything.
Yeah.
But I did have to go through a period of time where I really liked needles, and I was fucked up. I mean, I was lost. I didn't know which way to go. I was having a hard time finding my way through the landscape of life, as most people do.
And the needles are not they don't help. That's not a good journey.
Right? No. So I needed to quit. And
what were you banging? Speed?
More speed than anything else, and I never started doing heroin again, and which I only did about 3 times ever in my whole life.
You're lucky that didn't take.
Right, yeah,
because that's a hard one to kick. I mean, speed. You're usually exhausted by the time you have to stop.
Yeah, so and I never really had a budget for cocaine. It was my lack of money that kept me alive. Because if I would have had unlimited cash, then
who the fuck knows?
Right, yeah, it would have been over.
So you're doing that
quick.
Shitty biker speed.
Yeah, well, yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
There was some pharmaceutical stuff that I just can't remember. The Placid was a barbiturate.
Painkiller. Yeah, barbiturate, Placidyls. Right. Yeah. Oh, so you really...
I used to call the dents in my car Placidents.
So you were a warrior.
I had I was taking a run at it.
Yeah.
So, I was in that program for like 3 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
And that was a state program kind of deal, or?
It was called the Palmer Drug Abuse Program. It was independent, kind of a 12-step deal, but like one different step.
Right.
Or that they were taking credit for the whole thing.
They took one step out.
Yeah.
It's an 11-step program. Yeah.
So, no, they added one.
Was that your folks doing? I mean, did they, were they?
No, that was the court's doing. The court made me go to it.
Too many Placidents?
Yeah, too many Placidents. And so when I got out of that, and I went back to smoking pot, but never went back to anything else, and drinking. And, which I've kept up a thorough
yeah.
throughout the years.
Yeah, you're still hard at work at that.
Right. I did an interview this morning. Somebody said, well, there's a big rumor that you quit drinking. And I said, well, go on YouTube and you can see footage of me fully dressed in a suit with a cigar and scotch diving into a mermaid tank. So you're not real sober when you start diving into the mermaid tank.
You got some bad information there.
Right. You got some bad information.
Well, do you ever think about stopping?
I did for about 6 months a few years ago. I was going through the divorce, and right before I got into that divorce,
that's the second divorce.
I was second or third. There was that tall chick. I can never remember her name, and Jennifer or Betty.
Do you have kids?
Something. I do. I have a 23-year-old son named Marshall, who's
so you've been married 2 or 3 times, and you got 1 kid. I've been
married 3 times, but another relationship that was pretty long that I never married. So now I'm married to Alex Ramundo's. Do you know Alex?
I think I met him.
Yeah, probably. He's been around here for a while. It's his sister. He and I started stand up together, and his sister's just a beast of a singer, as good as it gets. And
you think you got this one right now?
I don't know. It seemed like it till earlier today.
Oh, no.
She walked out of the door crying and slammed the door, so I'm like, well, this isn't going great, is it?
It's a day-to-day thing, huh?
No, I love her to death, and I really believe in her, and I've just never met a more talented human being. And
well, that's beautiful,
She
man.
buzzes around here doing voice work, but her band is stellar, and she's got a set of pipes that we spent our holidays with Brian Johnson.
From AC/DC?
From AC/DC.
Really?
Yeah, we got to be friends with him and his wife Brenda. And
where were you?
In Fort Lauderdale, where they live. And,
Brian Johnson lives in Fort Lauderdale?
Huh? No, he doesn't. He lives in Sarasota. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sarasota. And I watched her make him cry. Brian Johnson, big old tear running out of his lines.
From her singing?
Just singing a jazz standard in his living room.
Oh, that's beautiful. So that must be a hell of a living room. AC/DC money's got to be pretty large.
It's got it. Yeah, it's a nice spread they've got over there. It's got just this killer bar that's a pub. It's just a big English pub in the house, and above it in stained glass windows above the door it says "For those about to rock." I'm like, I love this place, man.
I love AC/DC.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't think I could even. I don't know that because of his hat that I could identify that man. I think I've only seen the lower part of his face.
Yeah, he's not a very big guy. None of them are.
Is he British?
Yeah.
And the rest are
British.
Australian.
Yeah, I think so.
So were they all hanging around? Were you hanging around with Angus?
No, they really, they really don't like each other very much.
Oh, really? It's like that?
But Brian is a great guy. And, he I can't understand much of what he says. He's like, "Run me, my fuck, my cunt, my," but we're having dinner with him in this restaurant. And there were like 8 of us at our table, and we were loud and drunk. And there were 2 other tables in there, more tables than that, but they take care of Brian. They love him in that town. Everywhere he goes, people are just go crazy
fucking
about
royalty,
him.
Man.
Right, he is. And so we're over there, we're being loud, and there was a couple over there, and this guy, a pretty big guy, comes over to us, and he goes, very, very huffy with his chest puffed out.
Yeah.
He goes, I've taken my girlfriend out for her birthday, and I would appreciate it if you'd quit using the F word. And Brian goes, "What if I quit using the F word? How would I tell you to fuck off?"
How did that play?
Yeah, right.
Did that?
Well, they got a little. The guy got a little loud, and then they threw him out for questioning our language.
Yeah, don't fuck with Brian.
Yeah, don't fuck with Brian. Whatever you do.
So when you started in Dallas, who were the guys? I mean, you got cleaned up and you bounced around. Then what was the incentive to do stand up? I mean, where'd that come from?
They built a comedy club between where I lived and where I worked, selling windows and doors, and the guy that I worked with at the time, Sam Bartholomew, he went to the first open mic night, and he came down to the office the next day, and he goes, "Hey, you're funnier than these guys. You should go do this." And so here we are, 27 years later.
So who was who'd you start out with in Dallas that are still around?
Ed Yeager was there. I mean, I don't know anybody that was still around.
Really?
But Ed is a big TV writer out here, so he would be the most successful. Gene McGuire. I don't know if you know any of these guys. Most of them really were only maybe only one or two guys that ever even did it professionally, and it was a bunch of guitar acts and stuff.
Back then, there was a lot of guitar acts around.
Well, in Dallas there was. Now they wouldn't tolerate it in Houston.
But that's because that was a higher bar for
way higher bar.
They established that early on at the what was the workshop,
the
right?
Workshop, right?
And so you're in Dallas. How far? That's like 3.5 hours from Houston.
Something like that. Yeah, I think so.
So now, like, and this was the 80s, right?
Yeah,
86.
86.
So things were happening in Houston, right?
Right. Hicks and Kennison and
Riley
Shock and Greenlee and
Pineapple.
Jimmy Pineapple. Right, yeah.
And and Kennison was around. So when you're in Dallas, did you feel like something's going on up there?
You know what? I knew really early on that I was very comfortable there, on stage doing stand up. And I had done other stage related things before, because when I actually went to work for the drug abuse program. And so I became their primary public speaker. And so I would go around every day to high schools full of kids and tell my life story of addiction. And it got funnier and funnier and funnier. And and I was so comfortable doing it.
Were you killing with the high school kids?
I was. I could make them think. I could make them laugh. It was great. And so when I started doing stand up years later, when I was 29, I wasn't near as afraid of it probably as a lot of guys were. And I got to where I could kill. I only had 4 minutes, but the 4 minutes I figured out how to make it go.
Was it one story?
I think it was 4 stories in the 1 minute, but in the 4 minutes.
Because you were always long form, right? You weren't doing jokes.
Oh no, always. It's always been hard for me to take off and land quickly.
Yeah,
I've always prepared to do, and still do. I'm always a little out of my element whenever I pop into a comedy club to do a 10-minute set, because I'm just so used to getting into it.
Right. There's no way to establish yourself, and it's going to take about 5. Even though you are this huge act now, I mean, for you to get started, it's about 8 minutes, right?
Yeah, I just wind in it pretty slowly, so, but more than anything else, it's just I'm just used to just big venues and with with just full of my fans, and that'll let me get away with. I mean, you still got to bring it,
right?
But they're there to laugh at me. They paid to do it, so they're usually pretty soft.
So when you did Houston, when you would go up there to work at that, did you work at the workshop and at the? I
went there and did sets, and then I ended up working at the Laugh Stop. I never worked at the other one. I went in there and did a set one time really early on, and they just stared at me.
Really?
And
why?
It was mostly the other comics.
Well, what was there? What they think you were doing wrong?
They just thought I was a hack, which I was. I mean, just pretty, just kind of a new guy, just trying to figure it out.
Right.
So
they gave you the stink eye.
They gave me the
back wall.
And they gave it to everybody too.
Who was in that group? Was it Riley and Tracy?
Yeah, all those guys. Fucking Jimmy Pineapple used to drive all the way across the city to ignore me. So he'd go to a club I was working in and sit at the bar and not pay attention to me.
Isn't it weird, man?
Yeah, it is weird. But Pineapple's always been crazy. But they're all crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, the ones that are still around.
Right.
But when I saw pictures of you at the Laugh Stop, there was long hair. You had a mustache.
Right. I've had more looks than Madonna.
But you leveled off. I mean, this has been it for a while.
Yeah, right. I was always a rock guy. And they were always trying to kind of push me into a country thing because of the way I talk. But, I came up.
Who was trying to push you?
Well, it just seemed like that the crowds were more responsive if I put it on a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And so you have all kinds of temptations, when you start doing stand-up to find an easier way to do it. And my manager there, a guy named J.P. Williams, who's as big a prick as has ever lived, and he's Foxworthy's manager, and Larry the Cable Guy's manager. He was, and Bill's, and mine.
Yeah.
And but he prefers, a lapdog type of client. He doesn't like anybody that tells him what they think. And so we got in a big fight. But he was trying to get me to be more like Bill and Jeff and Dan. You got to be corporate clean. And I'm like, I don't think I do. I think the only thing that matters is that I'm true to my nature. because that's what they make a connection with when I'm myself. And there's plenty of people out there that smoke and drink and like to go listen to live music and all the shit I like. So I'm going to be myself and see who dances. So
that was a discussion you had when you started in with those guys.
With him, that was the direction he wanted me to go.
So before that, though, were you friends with Bill, with Hicks at all?
I knew him, but I was just a goo-goo-eyed, fan.
But he was a kid, right, when you met him? Pretty much?
No, he was maybe 27 or 8 when I met him. His legend had been around comedy longer than that for sure. But
by the time
I met him, I probably didn't know him for 6 years before he died. And so I would just come out to every time he'd do a set.
Yeah.
And like all the other comics, you know, and sit back there in wonderment and go, I suck. I'm the worst.
What am I doing?
Right.
Yeah, he must have been something to see then. I would have liked to have seen him in Texas, really. Because that was really, that's where it all sort of started for him.
Right, and he that's probably, where he had the biggest following. But he used to do really, really well at the Laugh Stop in Austin.
Yeah, I've worked that room.
Yeah.
I've worked the front room and the back room, depending on
the size of the crowd, right? I tell you what, I always worked there, and I always did well there, but I couldn't draw 40 people.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, and now they could put just a little thing on the on their website saying there's going to be a special guest, and if they know I'm in town, because I won't let them use my name if I still got tickets to sell over here.
Yeah.
I'm really just trying to work out some new stuff.
Yeah.
And so they, then they get 150 people, and I'm like, well, we couldn't beg 150 people to come see me at one time, and
that's a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, it's great, and then I get to, I'm shooting the Salute to the Troops 4, which is something I do
on the 18th.
Is it 18th?
February 19th.
19th, right?
And that's going to be live on CMT.
It's not going to be live,
okay.
Thank God. I did something live for him this year, and it was nerve-wracking and unnecessary.
Why? What happened?
Oh, it was just a stupid award show that they asked me to do, and
you hosted it.
I hosted it, and they wanted to do it live for some reason.
And
the day before, the monitor went out 5 times. And I'm like, well, if this happens tomorrow, I'm fucked because I'm not off book with any of this shit except the monologue.
You mean the prompter?
The prompter,
yeah.
Right. Just would go completely out.
Right.
And then, so that just made me tense and feel anxiety and stuff. And
Did you drink more?
I drank. I don't know if I drank more, but I drank. And they, I'm really, I don't hate country music.
Yeah.
But I really just don't listen to much of it.
Right.
So
the new stuff
really,
forever.
The new stuff at all.
Yeah.
And but not because basically it's rock and roll. I mean, they're screaming guitars on every song.
It's all changed into pop music.
Right. Into popular music. You're exactly right. So when they ask me questions, they really think that I have this deep knowledge of country music when I do have a deep knowledge of rock and roll, but not country. And they ask me, what country tunes are you playing these days? And I'm like, well, the Allman Brothers, is that a country band at all, or what is that?
Well, that's the weird thing, man, because I grew up in New Mexico, and there's this assumption that and it's interesting to me that when you had the first conversations with your manager about country fans, is that most of the great Southern rock and a lot of great American rock music comes all out from there, comes out of the South and out of Texas and everywhere else. But there is this weird separation that there's a type of consumer, a type of fan that, country music fans have gotten this weird kind of rednecky reputation, but most of them are rock guys at heart.
The bands themselves?
Well,
the bands,
of course they are. And even the fans, though, it's weird. There's nobody, I can't imagine there are people that only listen to fucking country music. Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
There are those people.
Oh, yeah, tons of them. It's the biggest they sell more country albums than they do rap albums. That's the biggest demographic of music, the money they make.
And those people, you're telling me they didn't listen to Bob Seger, they didn't listen to, I don't know why I picked Bob Seger, because he's a big crossover.
Absolutely.
They must have.
I guarantee the bass player played for him, because all those guys are session guys that came from rock and couldn't make a living doing rock, so they moved to Nashville.
So they changed country to rock.
Right. So they made a transformation to the place they fit and get a job. And,
isn't that something, man?
And just mega talented guys. I mean, I know a lot of them and I have a lot of respect for them. We're good friends with the guys from Rascal Flatts just because we end up at the same place a lot. And they're great guys. And uber talented. They're, Gary LaVox or whatever his name is just one of the best singers.
Where do you live?
Alive. Montecito.
Oh, you live in town. I thought you had a place in Atlanta or somewhere.
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
You like Georgia?
I like it. I like Georgia fine. It's pretty. Its proximity to the eastern seaboard is,
So it's just practicality while you're there?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because you just can't. It's hard to hit all those cities from over here. You got an extra day of travel going and coming.
Right.
If you come out of L.A. So.
Right. Now, okay, so you did stand up for how long before? Because, I did one of my first middle weeks for Foxworthy, long before the redneck thing.
Right.
He was just a guy telling stories. I remember he closed with some bit about, someone, I don't know if it was his dad or him. He was, all fucked up on a boat that was on a trailer.
Right.
Now, I don't know how far back that goes.
Long way.
Right.
A long way back.
But he's always a sweet guy, and he's become something very different. But he was just a comic.
Yeah.
He was just the redneck thing had not taken hold. How long were you doing straight up storytelling stand up before these guys approached you, and how did that happen?
Well, I met Jeff the first day I did stand up.
Uh-huh.
Jeff was the headliner in the Arlington Funny Bone that week, and he was at the Fort Worth Funny Bone in 86.
Yeah, so I met him in like 89 or 90.
Right.
And he was a headliner.
Right. So, he was the headliner that week, but but you couldn't fly home. You had to do both those clubs. They weren't going to fly you back home, and you weren't going to fly yourself back home. So he came out to open mic, and I went up there and did my 4 minutes, and he came up to me afterwards and goes, "Hey man, you're really funny, but you need to put the punchline at the end of the joke." And I was like, wow, how do you do that? And so this is how generous the guy is. He takes a brand new comedian.
Yeah.
I don't have much of this in me.
Yeah.
And restructures. He said, if you say this part here and this part here, then the funny part's last, and then you can stare at them and they'll laugh. And I'm like,
and he was right.
He was totally right. I mean, it's just a way to structure a joke. It's kind of hard to remember now how to do it wrong.
What were you doing? Burying the lead?
I just whatever I would say that was funny, I still had more information to give you, so I'd step on the laugh.
Right.
So he just showed me how not to do that.
So he changed your way of thinking.
Yeah, as far as joke structure goes.
But your bits are like usually, I imagine you see them as jokes, but there's several tags, in the course of a story.
Yeah, they're, really they are jokes.
Sure.
But and that's just the only way I know how to do it is in story form. I just can't write another way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where most of my stuff comes from, because I just don't have the attention span to sit down and really try to write.
You got to talk through it.
I got to talk through it. I work. I don't even have a notebook. Never have. So I just work. It wanders into my head, the funny stuff, and then I keep doing it, and that's one of the reasons I do an ass load of shows, because it's hard to do this part time and stay sharp at it. It's hard for me. I got to keep all that information floating at the top. And,
right. Because
the longer I go, the deeper it sinks. And,
right. Or you lose hours. Because I do it the same way. I'm just a conversationalist. So then, if you're not having the conversation, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Exactly right. Right.
So you meet Foxworthy in 86. So how does that relationship, you still had a build. So how did you evolve into this blue collar comedy thing?
Well, I got my biggest, my big early break was, I got to open a show for Sam at the Dallas County Convention Theater.
For
Kinnison. And, which was a makeup date, that he had missed.
What year was that?
I'd say 89.
Yeah.
Maybe 89.
I knew him just before that. I was at the Comedy Store as a doorman in 87. So by 89 he was way gone.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But he was I get there and it's me and he's not there. So his brother's there, Bill.
Yeah.
But he's not. And so there's 2,000 people out there, just all rabid Kinnison fans, and And so we're just sitting back there, and Bill goes, "Hey, listen, sometimes Sam's opening act is a bit of a sacrificial lamb. So if they start screaming, just because they want to see Sam, So, but I went out there and had the best set of my whole life. They loved me. That was great.
What do you think it was? I mean, what did you do? I mean, that's a hell of a warning. I mean, was there any sense that they were against you when you walked out?
There was a sense that Bill didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, or maybe they weren't really into LeBeau at the time, but who I've always thought was funny.
He's great.
And
he went out there and
No, he didn't. He was in rehab or some hab or something, or his wife was, but he couldn't make it. So they called me literally the day I did it.
And you were in Texas.
So I didn't have time to fret it. I just went down there and did it. So, and then ended up, there were some people there that own comedy clubs, and they offered me basically a job working 50 weeks a year on the road as a middle act.
Really? Which clubs were that?
Funny Bone and Punchline.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So that was it. So you were like
on the road. Yeah. Had a job. Yeah. Easy to book. And making $500 and
but you paid your dues, you got the time in.
Right. So I took off, down the road in a little Nissan pickup truck, and like everybody else, I drive 800 miles to make no money almost, and was pumped about it.
Sure, man.
That absolutely.
But you weren't carrying any. Were you married at the time?
I was.
Oh, so that strained it.
Yeah. So right. So I'm tagging around some regret. That's which gets heavier and heavier, and so inevitably she's the one that didn't want to be married to somebody who was always going to be on the road. And
tricky business. Is that the mother of your kid?
Yeah.
And
she was just at my show in Charlotte, and I'm really, she's been a great mother to my child, and I just really do love her. And
you guys are okay?
Oh yeah, we're totally solid, totally solid.
That's fucking good.
I even like her husband, who I'm the luckiest man in the world to get this guy for a stepfather for my son.
Good guy,
because he's a solid motherfucker. Kind of the different end of the spectrum than me, which is fine.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
So, and my son went on the road with me from the time I had joint custody. So he's 3 years old. Me and him are in a van driving down the road doing gigs. And
really?
I don't even know what to do with a 3-year-old. I'm like going,
what did you do with him?
I was waiting for him to get old enough to eat McDonald's so I could get some trans fats down him. Here, taste this. Man, we'd sleep in the van, and so it's weird because I get a lot of comments that I shouldn't talk about the success part of it. And Foxworthy always.
What does that
mean? To act like you didn't make money doing it. To talk about almost to talk about somebody else's life. Some lady attacked me after a show in Dallas last year.
Yeah,
and she told me she was a social worker and she didn't appreciate all the bragging I did about all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, it's not my fault. I didn't buy one ticket. I didn't buy one album. And I used to do it for almost nothing, and nobody seemed to care about that.
What do you mean? What is she talking about? When you talk about the way you raised your kid or taking him on?
No. If I mentioned the plane and I used to, I'd have a plane that you guys bought me because I would tell a story about it.
Right.
It's still part of my life, so I still have to, there's nothing else to write about but your life. That's it. And so whatever that is, that's where you're at. So.
But you got flack for that? Even Foxworthy said you got to keep calm.
Was, he certainly never gave me any flack about it, but he said, never, ever mention the money. So.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But
so,
did you,
and I thought kind of people like a small town boy makes good, story.
Well, it goes either way.
It goes either way, right.
And I think that's interesting because ultimately what I learned recently is whatever they're coming at you with, they're projecting it onto you. Like, you're still an entertainer and you still do, and you're talking about your life. But if you're going to represent the thing that they don't have and they're going to say, fuck that guy, then that's the way they're going to be.
Exactly right.
Now, but like, I thought you were going to say the social worker got on you for driving your 3-year-old around in a van.
No, she had no problem with that. I didn't.
And the kid turned out all right.
Oh yeah, he's a great kid, just out of college. Got a degree in recording arts, which
really?
is almost useless. And it's just the recording arts jobs, and the engineer jobs, they don't exist anymore because anybody with a
garage band, yeah,
right.
But it must feel great to come from like that to having this this custody situation where you got to go do a shit gig in middle and bring a 3-year-old with you and find a waitress to watch him while you're on stage, I imagine, or whatever.
Right.
And then to be able to send the kid to school and to be supportive and let him do what the hell he wants to do. And to hear you say that, the stepfather was a good guy. I mean, that's an important thing.
Oh, that's everything.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what the hell is going to happen with that, or
Right.
you've got no control over that woman anymore.
Absolutely none.
And it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out great. And and he's a great kid. He works for me now. He works for me. I got a VIP experience where people can come back and take pictures and ask questions and sing songs or whatever.
So when did you start touring with the blue collar thing? Because this is what's interesting to me. Because in my mind, your comedy doesn't need to be pigeonholed. You're a guy that does funny shit. You tell funny stories. You got some darkness in you. All the good stuff is there for great comic, which you are. But I think that some people of my generation or some people of my ilk, will sort of set the blue collar thing in a different place. Like they'll assume it's not for them. But even the young guys that are in that world are great comics. I just don't think that there's enough crossover. Ron, I'm trying to bring you, gonna get the alt kids on the Ron White bus.
Right. I was kind of a counterbalance, I think, to Dan and Dan Whitney, Larry, the cable guy. And so I think it worked, and we all were friends.
How'd they pull you in, though? What was the plan?
I was already opening for Jeff.
Okay.
I remained friends with Jeff that entire time, and when he got big enough to take somebody with him, he took me with him.
Right.
So he kind of pulled me out.
And you were
of the
strong
clubs
too, man. That's it.
Yeah, right. He wasn't
afraid.
He wasn't afraid. But also, I played by his rules because he's always been a clean comic. So I would never I would never say fuck. I would try to.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and not that he ever said anything about it.
But you knew.
Yeah, I knew.
Yeah.
I knew that there's no sense in him doing a show because he likes to sell tickets to. He's from the Leno school. Do a clean show and sell tickets to the grandparents, the parents, the kids, and
okay.
And I'm more of a don't bring your fucking kids to my show.
Yeah, I'm not
okay with you.
Don't want to be responsible for what goes in his head.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do that at your own risk.
Yeah.
So, so I just, saw, it was a good job to have. He paid me really well. And, so I thought, well, I can just, do it, if my stuff's not blue for the sake of being blue.
Right.
It's just who I am. So I write stuff that's perfectly clean too. And so I just picked those jokes and, did a show in front of them. And then, Kings of Comedy got real huge and Bill was traveling with,
Bill Engvall?
Yeah, Bill Engvall was traveling with Craig Hawksley out of St. Louis.
Uh-huh.
And so they just put those two tours together.
Uh-huh.
And it worked like a charm.
The blue collar tour.
And that guy did 20 dates with us, and then they fired him and brought on Dan, Larry the Cable Guy.
Why'd they fire that guy?
He was on some kind of medication that made him just get all up in Jeff's face and just jabber nonstop, and Jeff just didn't like it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pee, dude. And
Yeah.
he'd be, then what we're going to do next?
Yeah.
We should be making more money.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So they brought Dan, so you were in the beginning.
I was the original three. Or the original four.
And Larry or Dan Whitney came in later.
Right.
And then that became huge.
Huge. It couldn't have been I don't know. I know Larry's got some flack, from other comedians. And,
about what?
Well, because he made an assload of money but because if he wouldn't have been successful, nobody would have cared what he was doing.
I kind of remember him when he was just Dan Whitney.
Yeah.
Kind of like at the Comedy Store in the late 80s.
Right.
And he just had that, kind of long, permy hair.
Right.
And he was just a comic.
Right.
And he was a nice guy. But he got some flack for, I don't know if it was hack flack or that they didn't like the character. I mean, I never felt it really. He's got pretty good jokes and, and the whole thing works. I never had that, but I guess there was some backlash for some reason.
Yeah, but overall, he's a great pace, rhythm, and timing comedian.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't figure out a way to make all that stuff work. So he sells it, he mugs it, but Hicks did the same thing. Hicks would do pratfalls, mug,
Sure, no, we all use the tools.
That, right?
Yeah, he did have some mugs,
yeah.
Some movements.
Right.
A cadence.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, so I admire what Dan does, and Is it exactly my cup of tea? No, but I'm not either.
Right.
So
you're not exactly your cup of tea.
Not exactly. No, I'm not.
Who is your cup of tea?
The funniest thing I've ever seen is a play called The Doyle and Debbie Show, which is a 3-person play out of Nashville. Basically, it's a 2-person play. There is a third, but a very small role. And my wife writes with John Oates. And so we were there visiting John. They were writing together. They live in Nashville.
John Oates, Hall & Oates?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so he was just asking us, I don't know what you guys do at night, but if you like shows, we can go see this play. And we're like, oh, yeah. I mean, I laughed so hard. I didn't think I could laugh that hard again.
Wow.
I really didn't.
Because we're all so cynical.
Right, exactly. And this guy, the guy, it's a guy and a girl, the guy wrote it all, and he just caught me from an angle I didn't see coming at all and just beat me to death. I mean, I thought I was going to fall out of my chair. I was laughing so
Feels
hard.
Feels good, right?
Oh, it felt amazing.
Yeah.
It really did. And now I've seen it two other times, and then my wife and I got married, and we opened the ceremony with an hour and 40-minute play. We brought the Doyle and Debbie Show into the wedding in front of 350 people. And because I always want people to see it, but you have to go to Nashville to see it, so that nobody ever does.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, well, fuck it, And
you can bring it to the wedding.
We're bringing it to the wedding, and it was quite a production. Our friends from Europe were going, "So the fuck is this? It just makes no sense at all." But it's really Insider, and you think it's going to be a parody. And they're both such good singers that I was okay with that. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a dark, twisted tale.
Yeah.
And just brilliantly put together. And I don't know what he'll ever do with it.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to get him to go to, because he plays Zanies on Tuesday night. That's where that play is. It used to be a place called the Station Inn, which was a 100-year-old bar downtown. And, but he should be in Vegas with it,
Yeah.
So
do you ever drop into Zanies?
Yeah. I did a set. When we did Salute to the Troops, we went in there and ran it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's a good club, man.
Yeah, it is. I've been playing it for years. I used to play it 2 or 3 times a year.
You played all those clubs.
Oh, every one of them, man. Forever.
Was it
for 16 years, 17 years of straight up,
Was it mostly the Southern Circuit, or you did all of it, right? I mean, because
wherever the reach of the Funny Bone chain was,
right? That goes all the way up to Ohio too, right?
Yeah, Pittsburgh, and but I never did Yoder gigs, which I think are one-nighters up there.
Sure,
and I never did any of those.
Yeah.
And then the Punchline at one time had 6 clubs, and so I worked those
twice a
year, and then Funny Bone had 21 clubs. So
you were set.
Yeah, until they figured out that I had nowhere else to work, and they cut my money by a third and took away my airfare, which is when I quit comedy and moved to Mexico.
You said, fuck them.
Fuck you. Eat a steaming bowl of fuck.
And you'd been at it how long by that point?
Oh, I don't know, about 15 or 16 years, I guess.
And that was when the boom crashed. They said, these guys will do it for anything.
Right.
And you said, fuck you, and you moved to Mexico.
Moved to Mexico. All right. And I still work. I still open for Jeff.
Right.
And so I would.
How the hell do you move to Mexico?
Just move down there, man.
And that's it?
Move down
you don't
there.
need papers or nothing?
Well, right. Now you need a vest, but.
Right.
But you can live there if you want to.
And your big idea was what?
Pottery. It was me making a fortune at the border. But what happened was, it turns out my product was heavy and fragile, which is a horrible combination.
When you got to put it on a truck.
Yeah. So
you bought a factory from somebody, or you?
No, it wasn't even. What it was really a big, huge art studio where I would. My girlfriend at the time would teach. We did this stuff right here. And two existing pieces of pottery. So we didn't make the pottery.
Oh, so we
just did this application type of thing.
Oh, you got terracotta pots.
Yeah, right. And
then you
put
glued
tile
shit on it.
Right, glued shit on it. But it was beautiful. I mean, and now.
Whose idea was that, Ron? Was that her idea?
No, it wasn't. It was, she would make this stuff, and it takes forever to make. And then she would go to an art show, and she'd sell it in 3 hours. And but then it would take her 6 months to make another pile of it to go sell. So I just thought, well, why didn't somebody go to Mexico, train a room full of people how to do this? And it was I won't trade the experience for anything, and I still love Mexico, and my wife is Mexican, and I think that's, and Lori, my ex-wife, and Marshall's mother was, I'm like, he's 5, and I'm like, we're going to Mexico.
Yeah.
And you're going to need to just put him on a plane. I'll be at the other end. And, she's like, what?
Kid had a hell of experience growing up and
right.
traveling in.
But,
Did you make some money doing it?
No.
How long were you there for?
I was there for 3 years, I guess. And when I left, the girl went crazy, and
who the artist
I was with? Yeah, she was crazy. Well, she was crazy. She didn't go crazy. She was already crazy. I just had these blinders on because she was so hot that I just didn't want to see it.
I know that one.
You know her? Right?
I mean, I don't know that girl, but I know that story.
Yeah, right. It's a common story.
It sure is a common story.
And so
she went off the rails, or what?
She went off the rails on a crazy train, and and so I was trying to get her parents to come get her. Because now I feel stuck, right? I got a girl in a foreign country,
and she's what kind of crazy?
Crazy. I get trash drunk on red wine and cry.
Okay, that kind.
Yeah, right. Really charming stuff,
but locked into that.
There was
no other frequency.
No, not at that point. And so I remember when I went into Mexico, I went in there with I had a big custom van that I was touring in, and then I had the biggest truck that Ryder rents. And the biggest trailer that Ryder rents behind the truck. Yeah. And I left 3 years later, and the exact same equipment just pointed the different direction, going, well, that didn't work out. We're the shit. And, but they do fine with it. I mean, it still operates today. They just sell it they just sell it there. And,
did you sell the business, or you just?
No, I just gave it to them. It was a bunch of tools. And a bunch of inventory, you know. And so I'm like, if you guys want to stay here and keep making this stuff, and then just go ahead and do it.
And they do it.
They still do it.
Do you hear from them?
Yeah, not in a while, but I had some dialogue with Irma Munoz, was the lady that ran it for me, and she was the salt of the earth, and not good salt, like a dirty margarita salt kind of thing, but salt. So she was great, and all the ladies that lived in this little colonia, came down there and
what part of Mexico?
Jobs. Reynosa, across from McAllen, Texas.
Is that a beach?
No.
It's just Mexico.
No, it's just a dusty little old dried up Mexican town.
There's an interesting relationship between Texas and Mexico.
Oh, absolutely. I lost my virginity in Mexico at a whorehouse in Tijuana when I was 18. Yeah.
At 18?
Yeah.
So you waited a while.
I'd been telling people I was getting it for a long time, but I really wasn't. And
let's walk through that. So you just go over the border, and you said, where do I get laid?
Pretty good story. I went over there. I'm like, this is it. I got $141. And which is my weekly or bi-weekly paycheck. And
from the refinery?
From the Navy. I'm in the Navy, and I'm going to A school. And so I go over there, and I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. So I get this cab, and I go, hey, I want to need a woman. And he goes, you want a good woman, an ugly woman? I'm like, no, a good, really good. And so he goes, it'll take a little while. So we drive and drive and drive all over this. I mean, forever. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So eventually we pull up to this little building with a square in the middle of it, and rooms on the side. And I was in this room sitting on a mattress that was sitting on the floor, and there was a little bucket of water in the corner. And a kind of cute girl came in, and she was talking to me. And then this ugly girl came in whose teeth had no general direction or color. It was just a snaggle. And they started having an argument, and I was like, really intimidated. I was 18 years old. I was like, I hope the pretty girl wins, but she didn't win. The other girl did, and or woman. And
you didn't have the wherewithal to stay. No.
But I would now. I sure would now. Not you. You. There you go. So anyway, it was really. I walked out of there pretty, just horrible. I felt horrible about myself. It was. I just lost it to a ugly girl that I just paid, I think, $10 or $20.
Wow. So that was a real good one. You really did. That drive was worth it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go back to the gate, and I notice it doesn't take near as long to get back to the gate as it did to get there. But I still didn't say anything about it. And then I get there, and he goes, okay, that'll be $50. Well, the pussy was 10. 50. Where do you come up with that number? 50. So I reach into my pocket, and my wallet's gone. Uh-huh. And I'm like, dude, they stole my wallet. This place is 3 blocks from the gate. He just, whenever it came down to money. And so and now I'm in there yelling and give me back my wallet. And there's probably guys in the background with machetes going, keep yelling, honky tonk. And, we'll see if we can stop it. And so, eventually they came out with a wallet, but it wasn't mine, but it did have a military ID in it. And, but it wasn't mine. Uh-huh. And, so I just went back. So now I've lost my virginity. I don't have a dime. I actually had $1 in my pocket, but a bus from San Diego to was a quarter. 25 cents. That's it. And so I took that back, and I just flashed somebody else's ID when I was walking through the gate, and I was like, that sucked.
That was it.
That was it.
You left with no money and someone else's identity.
And right, it's and like someone else's identity. Yeah.
It's like the beginning of Mad Men, the series.
Right.
You could have started a whole new life as that guy.
I could have.
So, all right, so you come back from Mexico just to get up to date, and you do the tour with the guys.
Basically, they said, because I was hard to get a hold of in Mexico.
You're kind of hard to get hold of now, actually.
Right, but it was harder then. Yeah. And, because there was no cell phone service right over the border. They block it. And, I don't even know if I had a cell phone anyway, and the phone lines almost never worked, so. They said if I wanted to be part of the Blue Collar Tour, I had to move back to the U.S. and that they couldn't have me that far removed, and everything was falling apart anyway. I mean, the relationship was really trying, and so I said okay, and I moved back, and they were all, worried about me anyway, because it was a pretty rowdy town, but it was really only rowdy if you were there to stop the drug trades.
Right.
If you were just waving them by, they didn't really care about you at all. But we had a sheriff that was, we got a new sheriff in town, so he was in the newspaper saying he was going to clean up Reynosa, and I was like, ooh, I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
I would have kept that to myself. Yeah. Literally, he's in my favorite restaurant having dinner with the DA and 2 other guys. The 2 other guys stand up and shoot him to death. The 3 of them walk out the front door, and nobody's ever convicted.
You were there?
No, I wasn't there, but it was my favorite restaurant, so it was actually closed for a day or 2, and
so they killed the sheriff.
Yeah, well, front page of the paper. Yeah, murdered the sheriff. So who's next?
Yeah, a guy that says,
anybody else wanting to clean up the town?
I'm willing to work with local businessmen of any kind.
Of any kind, right? We practice non-judgment.
Yeah. It's like, whoever wins, wins. All right, so you go back and you do the tour, and that was the life changer. Then everything turned around.
Yeah,
how many years did you do it?
With the Blue Collar?
Yeah.
2 or 3.5, I think. I'm not real good with these kind of numbers, but we weren't full-time on either, so we would go on and off of it.
But right out of the gate, you guys were playing arenas?
8,000. Yeah. Up to 20,000 people.
And these are mostly, and they were worried about you. Was this where you had the conversation with the new manager?
Well, yeah, he was my manager at the time, and actually where he and I got into it was he's a prick. He's a genuine prick. And
still your manager?
No. Oh, no. Good God, no. He's still theirs, though.
Yeah.
And, we were shooting a salute to what it was, Blue Collar 2, the second one, and we were already done with it. We shot it in Denver, and we're all sitting in an after party. It's all wrapped up, and there's everybody there, the cast, the crew, the whole hee-haw gang. Yeah. We're drinking.
Yeah.
I'm trashed. And so he had this really just love to needle me. And then he was over there drunk, and he goes, "You're nothing but an overpaid opening act. You hadn't earned a dime of your money." And I was like, "Oh, motherfucker!" And it got real ugly real fast, and I quite frankly don't have the energy to hate him as much as he hates me, because I just lose focus.
Why do he hate you?
Because he just couldn't believe that I would, I actually owe the guy everything, because he's the one that got it sold to Warner Brothers, and without that, who knows what would have happened. Just a big old crapshoot. But he's just such a prick. He told the president of ABC, he said, "I hope your children die of ass cancer." And that's just him.
Yeah.
Just,
did you beat him up?
I didn't beat him up. We just got in each other's face and yelled a lot, and then he got in a car and left, and so the next day he dropped me from the management company, but I wasn't really his. I was really his partner's. A guy named John McDonald, and
he dropped you after you made all that cash, and you made that. I mean, you were essential to that tour. I mean, you were. It was almost like you were the id of the tour. You were the guy that was talking a certain amount of truth about a certain a way of life that everyone identified with. These other guys were doing that as well, but you were the dark part. You were essential to it.
Yeah, they never considered kicking me off the tour. He dropped me as a client. Which was kind of silly because I was generating so much money,
right.
and which was also why I was no longer willing to take shit from him. So that's kind of the way it broke up. And I mean, whenever we did like 3.5 years together, we still hold attendance records in at the where the Predators play hockey in Nashville, 23,000 people, and other people have sold it out, but not with that small a stage. And we had it in the middle with just, which was ridiculous, ridiculously big. It was too big.
And in a general sense, your fans are good people?
Yeah. Yeah, I like them. I like them. I when I first started doing the meet and greet thing, I didn't go into that really excited about doing it. And but it turns out it's pretty interesting to find out what they wonder about me.
And what is the general thing? Are you okay, Ron?
Right. Pull out of it. Just pull out of it. I can't. I've tried.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're nice people, and they just want to love on me. That's all. They just want to love on me.
And you can handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. If I can let them love on me for a little while, and and then you get to the wild drunk chicks that are, your wife standing there and
they're still going, come on,
let's go.
Well, that's great, man. So that whole tour established you as a solo act, and now you just do your own thing. What are you pulling now, people-wise, consistently?
Well, I was in Houston, and I think my average crowd's around 2,300.
Yeah.
I think is about what it is. And, but this weekend we did Houston and Austin to 12,000 people. So we did 3,000 seaters, sold out 4 shows.
That's great, man.
2 in Houston, 2 in Austin.
And
at one time I sold out 5 of those shows in Houston. So
by yourself?
By myself, yeah.
And what do you think the drop off is? You change it up, don't you?
I change it up all the time, but it's just I'm not the new big thing,
right?
And so my fan base is huge, and there's plenty of them, and it still goes just really well. But it's not 06 and 07 or and 05. I think were bigger, but it's
good,
still great.
And do you do Vegas?
9 weekends a year at the Mirage.
That's good, right?
So I'm actually going. Yeah, it is. I'm going there this weekend and doing my regular show, and then on Wednesday we're doing the
big CMT
salute
show
to the troops with. Gabriel Iglesias is going to be there. Kathleen Madigan's doing it. Josh Blue, Roy Wood Jr., and Geechee Guy. Do you know Geechee?
Yeah, I know the name. I don't think I've ever met that guy, but I've been hearing his name for as long as I remember.
Right. He's been around for as long as you can remember. Straight up jokes.
Yeah.
Very old school. I mean, old school stuff. It's delightful.
Yeah, oh, that's not. Well, yeah, you got to mix it up. Do you still generate all your own shit, or?
I would say I'm my head writer.
Yeah. I get you.
But you can't. I had 16 years to write the first record.
Right.
And you don't have 16 years to write the second one. So there's 2 of my friends that.
I think I know him. Wait, Todd Sawyer.
Todd did it for a little while.
And does Hawkins do it, or?
Yeah, Robert Hawkins.
Oh, he's great.
He opens for me, so we work out the beats.
Yeah.
On the bus, going from city to city, and
just polish it up. He's a great comic.
A great comedian, and so then Alex is usually on the bus also, and my son's very, very funny.
And you guys just kind of hammer it out.
That's
fucking great. It's like a traveling writer's room.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It is. I used to throw these what I called writers' retreats, but that I would rent this place in Austin on a lake, and we would all go there and for a weekend, and we'd bring in a chef and musicians. And,
to brainstorm,
eat a bunch of mushrooms, and we'd usually walk away with some really good stuff. And then there was a bar called Pootie's that was owned by Willie Nelson's bus driver who died, and but it was just all Texas honky tonk. And, so we would take that over at night, and I would run through all the stuff we worked on, and so, but we've always, that group of people's always written together. We're the Texas Hill Country Comedy Writers Association. So it was a bunch of guys that have been around for a long time. And what we'd do, back in the day, we would just table anything and help each other put it together.
And then decide who do it?
No, it would be your idea that you brought to the table. And, and that's yours.
Oh, I get
it. But everybody would look at it, and, and that's a great way to create.
And you generated a lot of stuff like that?
Tons of stuff.
That's amazing.
Tons.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah, but I think most things creative are at least somewhat collaborative. And
sure.
So it'd be really easy for me to just go, no, I write every word of it.
Right.
Next question.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you being honest about it.
Now I wish somebody could just write it and work out the beats on it and hand it to me, but that doesn't happen at all. It doesn't work that way.
So now, in terms of to finish up, in terms of the reputation and also how you move through your shows, I mean, have there been times where you didn't judge the amount of scotch correctly?
Yeah. Yeah, the last time I was at the Funny Bone, I was at the Funny Bone in Columbus, and it was one of my last comedy club gigs, and I had been banned from there for 10 years for getting caught making out with the manager's girlfriend in the women's bathroom.
Okay.
That night I drank too much. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
made some good choices about location.
I didn't think he was there, or I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. And he'd been there all night. That's the funny thing, right?
Right. So anyway, they banned me for a long time, and I was really good friends with that staff, and I fucked up. It was my fault. It was inappropriate as it could possibly be.
Sure.
And I still blame it on her, but still, So I come back.
Give yourself a break, Ron.
Yeah, right. I come back and they hire me back. The club's new and
that one in the mall.
Yeah. And so on Saturday, most of the staff that was there when I was there before was at a wedding, so they all came in on Saturday to say hi to me.
Yeah.
And because I used to party with those kids like crazy. And so it's a 3-show night, and I get there, and the bartender is one of the guys that I really hung out with a lot. He gives me a big old glass of scotch, and I'm jacking with everybody. And cut to the third show. The third show, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna go check and see where he's at. So I go in there to look to see where the middle act's at, and I can't get the two images of him within 10 feet of each other, straining. I'm like, that's bad. That is horrible. And I went up there, and I was repeating jokes. It was just the ugliest, shittiest thing. And I'm like, well, there goes the next 10 years. So it turns out the guy was doing the money in the back, never saw it. So I'm like, that was great.
Oh, that's good, man. Great. So that was the third show, though, right?
That was the third show.
Oh, fuck it. On a Friday or Saturday?
Saturday.
No, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you're there for 8 hours.
Yeah, you don't know what you've done,
drink
what
whiskey.
You haven't done.
Right.
Yeah.
It all blurs together.
Yeah, but usually you can gauge it pretty well.
Yeah. Normally, now it's I just drink. I have a tequila. My brother-in-law and I have a tequila, and
you just do it on one shot.
I just I take it on stage with me, and I just sip on it.
Oh, okay.
But it's the tequila's outstanding. So
smooth.
It's actually some of the best tequila in the world. I think.
What kind? Might as well sell it.
The brand is Number Juan, and Juan, and it's we make a silver, a reposado, and an extra añejo, and
you make it.
It's ours. It's our brand. Well, the distillery is in Mexico.
So you're a tequila guy now? I mean, this is your brand.
This is my brand. I own it with my brother-in-law.
I don't even know what tequila's made of.
It's made out of agave, cactus.
So they got a cactus farm down there, an agave farm?
It's, Jalisco, Mexico, this is all tequila is made there. It's like champagne. If it's not made in the Champagne region, you can't call it champagne. Okay. So there's a huge volcano, tequila is the name of it.
Yeah.
And it's gigantic. And all the land around it, hundreds of square miles is just covered up with blue agave. And
just by nature of the soil, because of the rock, the volcanic ash.
It's always been there. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so now there's actually a Tequila Mexico, and my distillery's in the next town.
So did you find like a master distiller? Did you had to interview guys?
The way we did it, the way Alex had been working on it for 4 years and trying to find something, and so we found this guy that was a master distiller, a real artisan, and he was making a high-end tequila that they just sold at the resorts in Mexico City, and under a different name, and but that's all he did. And so it was very expensive, $150 a bottle in the resorts, or $200 a bottle. And so that company that he did that for dropped him and opened their own distillery. And so he had that distillery, but no place to put this beautiful tequila. So we came in and negotiated with him to let us bring it to the United States, and which took a while, because that's their livelihood too. And they don't know a couple of, even though, Alex is from Mexico and he speaks fluent Spanish. So, but it took him a while to trust us enough with it. And then it was all his project, and I said to myself, if he gets it on the shelf, and then maybe I'll wade in, and so he did, and waded in. And,
wow!
So it's fun. I mean, it's a blast. We were down there. Our distillery's so little and dusty, and all these big gigantic things are around us, but they don't make better tequila. That's
fucking awesome. It's a great story.
Yeah,
you're in the booze business. It makes total sense.
Right. We were at Specs Liquor in Austin and Specs Liquor in Houston this weekend signing bottles, and so other comics have book signings. I have booze signings.
It's completely fitting, Ron.
Yeah, right. Why not?
Well, congratulations, man. It was great talking to you.
Hey, thank you very much it's great we finally got together.
I'm thrilled, man. I love you, man.
I love you too. That's good.
Oh,
that's cute.
That's it. That's our show. Again, thank you for listening to my show. If you need anything WTF related, go to WTFpod.com. We're going to be getting the ceramic mugs back up. You can get them through the actual potter soon. T-shirts are there. Things are there. Chat board is there. Whatever you need. Whatever you need. JustCoffee.coop. You can get that. If you get a bag of the WTF blend, get a little 10% on the back end of that. And, I'm going to try to, stay level. I don't want you getting worried that I'm experiencing something good and uplifting, because I'm still crazy, and I'm still crazy with panic, and I still need to figure out what to talk about on stage and off. So if you want to come to the Tripany House on February 18th or March 4th or 11th, go to tripany.org and come support the floundering, the exploratory process. Okay? Boomer lives!